Now, just a little warning before we begin. There will be some major spoilers for the Batman in this video, so if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want anything ruined, it is a really good time to click away. That said, we just got back from the theater watching it. We have not discussed anything about it, so let's begin with you telling us what you thought of the Batman.
I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it.
Really?
I was. I've seen so many iterations of Batman over the years, so it's hard to rank them. They all bring a little different aspect to the table. I mean, one comment I can definitely say is, if you thought the Christopher Nolan ones were dark, welcome to the big leagues.
Welcome to the darker leagues. I feel kind of the same. I was not super excited for this because, like you said, we have had so many iterations of Batman in the past couple of decades, I suppose. That it just feels like, okay, it's another take on Batman. Excellent. But this was a film that put the detective in Detective Comics, finally. It was a true kind of crime story instead of the usual I'm Batman, kind of kick butt kind of film, which usually takes precedence. Not that he didn't kick some serious butt in this film.
Definitely did. But he took some shots too.
I think that was maybe the most unrealistic part of a film that was really going for the gritty realism. There were a couple points where I'm like, I don't know if he's getting back up after that. I know he's going to jab himself with adrenaline like he does at some points, but some of them I'm not so sure he's getting up after.
One thing I really admired about this take was the fact that they steered away from Christopher Nolan's I'm armored army Batman. They made it look like he's more of, he's souping up his car. He's not like army contracted with all of his gear. He just has his gear. And there's no origin story. This is an established, I've been doing this for 2 years Batman.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you kind of bring that up because we've gotten so used to Batman and his gizmos, which it's part of Batman. I'm not saying it's not. But this wasn't Batman punching some numbers into a computer and the answer spits out for him. This was Batman figuring stuff out finally. This was a detective film almost first before a superhero film.
Which I liked about this as well. One thing that I think is hilarious about this version of Batman, hilarious in a weird way, I guess you could say, Robert Pattinson, I do not believe he smiled once
in the
entire movie. Not once did we see Batman or Bruce Wayne smile.
He was about as grim as you can possibly be.
But this was not a Bruce Wayne movie.
No, it wasn't about Bruce Wayne. It was about Batman.
Bruce Wayne barely made an appearance.
I don't know that Bruce Wayne is even, going by kind of even what the Riddler says, like, the mask is who you are. I mean, that's kind of the Batman MO, right? The mask is Bruce Wayne and he's Batman, and that really is felt in this film.
And I know there were a lot of doubts out there, even amongst some present person in this room, looking at you, about how well Robert Pattinson, after being in Twilight, would be Batman.
Come on, I didn't. It
You're
wasn't
Cedric Diggory Batman?
I've always seen him as Cedric Diggory. I don't know about Twilight. I've never really seen Twilight,
yes,
so
he has.
I've seen the first one.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think I don't know that I was worried about Cedric. I'm going to call him Cedric Diggory. I don't know that I was worried about Robert Pattinson's acting as much as I was worried about seeing a sparkly vampire. And we don't see a sparkly vampire in this film. That is completely moved out of your mind that this was the guy from Twilight.
This is just the next iteration. I mean, first, he was a wizard and he got killed in Harry Potter, spoiler. And then he came back from the dead as a vampire and he sparkled. Now that he's done being a vampire, he's decided to fight crime. It's all the same character, really. Well, just the evolution of him.
He's been in some pretty big franchises at this point. And I think he does fantastic here. I have no problem with Robert Pattinson performing. I mean, it's mostly brooding and dark. There isn't a whole lot of...
you could see the emotion in his eyes.
Sure.
Good
but I'm
job.
saying there's not a whole lot of dialogue from him. There's not a whole... He does deliver the emotion, but... It's pretty much one emotion. It's anger. It's vengeance. Yes, exactly. So he does it very well.
Yeah, it was fantastic with and then his interactions with our Selena Kyle Catwoman, Zoe Kravitz.
I thought she was a good Catwoman.
I think so too. I like that they again prioritized the actual comic book character. She was a cat burglar. She was constantly thinking of how to steal stuff. She always went back to it. Even when she left Batman at the end, she's planning her next heist. This is Catwoman, constantly going after... I mean, Anne Hathaway did a good job, kind of along that tail, but she's not the hero. She's never going to... She's not the hero. She's the Robin Hood, but she steals for herself, I guess.
That's not Robin Hood, then. But yes, I get what you're saying. she's not a malicious character, a malicious thief. She does have a heart of gold, as you might want to say, but she's never going to change her ways.
No, she doesn't feel she has to.
Yeah, she doesn't change them here either. They part ways in the end, and Batman lets her go, and I'm sure we'll see her again in the sequel to this.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the one thing I'm almost disappointed by, is we didn't need... I mean, big spoilers now, but we didn't need the Joker at the end. We could have just
the Joker locked up in Arkham.
We could have just let this movie be its own thing, and then, okay, let's give us a sequel if it's successful and if people like it, which seems to be the case. We don't always need to set up the next thing. This could have just been a self-contained story, and I think it would have been better for it. Not that I'm upset that we set up the Joker, but just let this be its own story.
Well, who knows? Maybe they just never go anywhere.
They might not.
I have no idea. They are both in jail.
Yeah, that would be the great sequel. They just jail life for the Riddler and the Joker.
Ooh, the next, I guess the next character I want to talk about was Jeffrey Wright's Gordon. I loved it.
Yeah, I think
I loved the way the police interactions with Batman.
It was a different. Yeah, it was a whole different. Where you're so used to kind of Batman. We call him, but we don't actually really interact with him all that much. But this is Batman right in there with the police, and it's a whole. It's almost more like the old school, 60s, Adam West Batman, where everybody knew that Batman was working with Gordon and everything. So
yeah, not even just the 60s. If you look at the original animated series Batman, a lot of that too, where he would work together with the police.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed that aspect. I'm glad this wasn't just the Batman working completely out of the shadows and only Gordon never talks to him.
If the police ever see him, they're going to hunt him down. No, the police kind of work with him because they know he has a purpose.
They're skeptical. I mean, they're a lot of times like, "What are you doing, Gordon? You can't just let him in here." And then by the end, you kind of see that we're all on the same side, and I did like that aspect.
Mm-hmm. And the Riddler, oh my gosh, plots within plots within plots. It was fantastic.
Yes, maybe a touch too long, maybe. I felt like...
It was a long movie.
I felt like we got to an end and then, oh, no, that's not quite the end. This is the end. Nope, not quite. We got another end. Nope, we got another end. Not Lord of the Rings, Return of the King type ending where you just keep going, but you just never were quite sure when the mystery was going to end. I thought, we had an end and then we didn't, like I was saying, and we ended up with a 3-hour-long movie, which... I'm not saying it's not smart. It was
smart to play the Riddler character that way. He did the social media thing. He did the crazy riddles thing. I mean, at one point you're like, oh my gosh, he knows who Batman is. I mean, it was nuts.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not saying it wasn't well done. I'm just saying it's a very long movie.
It's a very long movie.
And there is a lot of... It's not necessarily bad, but it does get slow in places. I've said before, especially with Dune... I appreciate the fact that a movie doesn't have to throw an explosion into my face every 10 seconds or have action every 10 seconds, that they can trust me to have an attention span, longer than a gnat to pay attention to your film if it's good. So I do appreciate the fact that they do, at times, take their time. Mm-hmm. I'm not upset at that, but I still think there's maybe a little bit shorter would have been better.
I can agree with that. It was a little long-winded at parts, but they're establishing his entire universe. His entire world. This is the Batman movie we deserved before we got Batman v Superman, honestly.
Well, yeah.
A well-defined Batman.
But this doesn't fit into... I can't see this expanding into any kind of its own... Like, I don't see Superman showing up and, all the other DC characters. This is a Batman universe. It's not a DC universe, if that makes sense. He's going to be... I mean, I would imagine... I hope, anyway. I hope we don't try to do something weird with this. Assuming it goes on, which I'm sure it will. I have a feeling it's going to be very successful. It was packed at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when we saw it, so... It
was packed, and people brought their young children, which I don't recommend.
No, this is not a movie for kids, for children. Not only that, but it is, again, it's not just action and lighthearted. It is a dark. Slow-paced crime story. It is not... This is not for children, so if you're listening to this thinking to take your kids, don't do it. And don't be like the people who were next to me that laughed at weird times when no one else... sadistic parts? Yeah, that makes you a little uncomfortable when the sadistic parts are the ones they're kind of giggling at, and you're like, why are you the only person in the theater giggling at that, and why are you sitting next to me?
Oh my gosh, the one last thing that we need to hit on. The soundtrack.
Interesting choice, because it was pretty much that whole dun dun dun
No, it was
the whole time. Yeah, I know you're gonna do it better.
Dun.
Yeah,
Like that was Batman's theme. That was vengeance coming for you.
That was the theme of vengeance. Yeah, there were, of course, more. There was more than that, and I thought what was more was good too. But it worked really well, actually.
I thought it was interesting because it was a heavy soundtrack. It just added that weight to Batman, that crushing atmosphere of Gotham, that heavy sound.
I agree with that. Yeah,
it was a really interesting choice. In there were times when I was like, okay, here comes the dun 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 again.
Yeah,
because it's repeated throughout over and over and over again. But it also represented how Batman felt and like how he thought, his mindset of vengeance. That was Vengeance's soundtrack. By the end of it, they did kind of change up Batman theme a little bit because he taking a new take on things. But, I mean, that soundtrack was so good. I mean, it was Michael, was it Giacchino? He also did, like, Jurassic World, Up, Incredibles, Star Trek 2009.
So what did you think about Thomas Wayne being not the squeaky clean Thomas Wayne I think we're kind of used to in these not that he was a bad guy, but he made a bad decision, which cost...
That's what makes him human.
Well, yeah, I don't disagree. I
cheer the fact that they took him a little bit off of this golden pedestal of he's perfect, he never does anything wrong. He had all the right intentions, and then he tried to protect his family.
Well, yeah, which you can't necessarily blame him for.
And he wanted to even protect him. No, just scare the guy. Don't kill the guy. Just scare the guy.
And then he killed the guy
because he talked to the wrong person. He was so concerned with protecting it and. It was a bad choice. There was no way, he should have tried to get ahead of the story, honestly. I mean, if he was getting threatened, he should have gotten ahead of the story.
Yeah, I mean, I do like it when good-intentioned characters make mistakes, and, that's a lot of times what makes a good story, is your intentions are good, but you make mistakes, and how do you deal with those mistakes?
Right.
And now this is the son having to deal with his father's mistakes in a lot of ways.
Yeah, the sins of the father.
Yeah, which is what the Riddler said.
Mm-hmm. I kept thinking the Riddler was going to be the reporter, that the reporter wasn't really dead.
Interesting. I didn't think the Riddler was going to be anybody we knew before. And he wasn't, yeah.
He was some background choir singer at the launch of the Thomas Wayne for Mayor campaign.
Yeah.
But it was so interesting because there was a good social aspect watching the people turn on their heroes when the truth was exposed, and it was really just I liked how heavy and real it felt.
Yeah, it was a very... Even more so than the Nolan Batman, like you said, this was the grittiest, most realistic. Until the ending, we got a little comic booky. I felt towards the end with the dams or the levees breaking or the seawall, whatever it was. And we kind of had we had to have this kind of grandiose ending, which by no means I'm saying ruined the movie, but it did kind of get we were kind of treading into a little more comic booky territory at that point. I felt, which was fine. Mm-hmm. But no, for the most part, 90% of the movie is very, very down to earth, very grounded. Like it feels like this could be real life, quote unquote, Gotham. And like I said,
Batman.
It is a detective movie. It is. It's not. I hesitate to call it a superhero movie, despite the fact, again, he kicks a lot of butt, but he is a detective first, which was very cool to see that kind of take on Batman.
It was wonderful to get him back down to those roots.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, they did that for for Catwoman as well. They dug into that comic book character and said, "This is who she is. Let's make her this."
Yeah.
And I loved it.
Yeah, it felt like you were reading a really, really good Batman comic book. What a Batman comic book should be. Not all the, the flash and pomp and circumstance necessarily, but a good crime story.
I even liked the new Batmobile.
I did too.
I'm a Batmobile lover.
Yeah,
and I never really liked the Christopher Nolan Batmobile. It was just an army vehicle. It wasn't my type of Batmobile at all.
Well, no, like you said, this was a Batman doing it more himself. It was a Batman who didn't have, we didn't see the Wayne Foundation behind him with all his little goodies and or
there wasn't somebody working on the side making him all of his stuff. He was shopping on Amazon. Yeah, I can put these things together and I'm gonna make me a Batarang.
Yeah, and sure. Like I said, this was a guy who was figuring out himself, not punching numbers into a computer and getting the answers, or like in the first Batman, not the first one, but the one from the 80s where, I'm just going to figure out the antidote real quick here. And no, this was a Batman doing crime work, and it was good to see. I liked it. Liked it a lot.
Yeah, and it was great to not see the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne.
Yeah, it was good to not do another origin story. We don't need another origin story, and we didn't get it. We got a young Batman story.
I even liked Andy Serkis as Alfred.
Yeah, he was fine.
I liked it. He felt, again, everything in this world just felt very lived in, very natural. It was really interesting that way.
No, I agree entirely. All right, well, I think we've come to time to give out the hammers, right? How many out of 10 hammers are you going to give the Batman?
I'm actually going to rate this a little higher than I thought I would.
Okay.
8.5 hammers.
Wow, that's high. Huh?
That is high, but I think this is the Batman movie we deserved.
No, I agree. I'm actually surprised you only gave it 8.5. I'm going to go a solid 9 hammers.
Wow, really?
Yeah,
really?
I mean, I don't know
I'm
that
only
it's...
downgrading a little bit because of the fact that the soundtrack got a little redundant for me at times.
I thought that was good. I didn't mind the fact that it kind of got redundant. Even that's not the word I'd choose necessarily. I just feel like I said it added a weight to it. It added a certain feeling to the film to just constantly have the same music kind of droning over and over again.
But it was the same exact 3-note pattern over and over throughout most of the soundtrack. Even when Batman wasn't on the screen, I'm like, there it is again. I hear it in the background. It's always there.
It's omnipresent.
Like Batman.
Yeah.
He is the fear of the city, and now he realizes he is also its hope.
Well, that's the story, right?
He's
realized the error in his ways when he's young, and now he's going to try to be better going forward. That's what life is all about, even for vigilantes. I guess that's all we got for you this time. Now it's your turn to take to the comments below and tell us what you thought of the Batman. Did you think it was good? Did you think this is not the best iteration of Batman ever? Whatever the case may be, again, leave the comments below, and let's talk some Batman. And until next time, thanks for watching.